Welcome to the 1,000 Nights and 1 Night. Now, when it was the 568th night, she said, "It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that Talib bin Saul set out with his escort and crossed the desert country between Syria and Egypt, where the governor came out to meet him and entreated him and his company with high honor, whilst they tarried with him. Then he gave them a guide to bring them to Said, or Upper Egypt, where the Emir Musa had his abiding place. And when the son of Nusar heard of Talib's coming, he went forth to meet him and joined in him. Talib gave him the caliph's letter, and he took it reverently, and laying it on his head, cried, 'I hear and I obey the Prince of the Faithful.' Then he deemed it best to assemble his chief officers, and when all were present, he acquainted them with the contents of the caliph's letter, and sought counsel of them and how he should act. 'O Emir,' answered they, 'if thou seek one who shall guide thee to place, summon the Sheikh Abd al-Samad ibn Abd al-Quddus al-Samud. For he is a man of varied knowledge, who hath travelled much, and knoweth by experience all the seas and wastes and wolds of the countries of the world, and the inhabitants and wonders thereof. Wherefore send thou for him, and he will surely guide thee to thy desire.' So Musa sent for him, and behold, he was a very ancient man, shot in years and broken down with lapse of days. The Emir saluted him and said, 'O Sheikh Abd al-Samad, our lord the commander of the faithful, Abd al-Malik bin Marwan, hath commanded me thus and thus. I have small knowledge of the land wherein is that which the caliph desireth, but it is told me that thou knowest it well, the ways thither. Wilt thou therefore go with me and help me accomplish the caliph's need? So it please Allah of the Most High, thy trouble and travail shall not go to waste.' Replied the Sheikh, 'I hear and obey the bidding of the commander of the faithful, but know, O Emir, that the road thither is long and difficult, and the ways few.' 'How far is it?' asked Musa. And the Sheikh answered, 'It is a journey of 2 years and some months going, and the like returning. And the way is full of hardships and terrors, and things wondrous and marvellous. Now thou art a champion of the faith, and our country is hard by that of the enemy, and peradventure the Nazarenes may come out upon us in thine absence. Wherefore it behoveth thee to leave one to rule thy government in thy stead.' 'It is well,' answered the Emir, and appointed his son Harun governor during his absence, requiring the troops to take oath of fealty to him, and bidding them obey him in all he should command. And they heard his words and promised obedience. Now this Harun was a man of great prowess, and a renowned warrior, and a doughty knight. And the Sheikh Abd al-Samad feigned to him that the place they sought was distant but 4 months' journey along the shore of the sea, with camping places all along the way, adjoining one another, and grass and springs, adding, 'Allah will assuredly make the matter easy to us through thy blessing, O lieutenant of the commander of the faithful.' Quoth the Emir Musa, 'Knowest thou if any of the kings have trodden this land before?' And quoth the Sheikh, 'Yes, it belonged aforetime to Darius the Greek, king of Alexandria.' But he said to Musa privily, 'O Emir, take with thee 1,000 camels laden with victuals and store of guglets.' The Emir asked, 'And what shall we do with these?' And the Sheikh answered, 'On our way is the desert of Kariwan, or Cyrene, that which is a vast wold, 4 days' journey long, and lacketh water. Nor therein doth sound a voice ever sound, nor is soul at any time to be seen. Moreover, there bloweth the Simon, and the other hot winds called Al-Juwab, which dry up the water skins. But if water be in guglets, no harm can come to it.' 'Right,' said Musa, 'and sending to Alexandria, let bring thence great plenty of guglets.' Then he took with him his vizier and 2,000 cavalry clad in mail capapi, and set out without other guide to them but Abd al-Samad, who went forthwith, and riding on his hackney. The party fared on diligently, now passing through inhabited lands, then ruins, and anon traversing frightful wolds and thirsty wastes, and when mountains which spired high in the air. Nor did they leave journey a whole year's space, till one morning, when the day broke, after they had travelled all night, behold, the Sheikh found himself in a land he knew not, and said, There is no majesty and there is no might, save in Allah the glorious, the great. Quoth the Emir, What is to do, O Sheikh? And he answered, saying, By the Lord of Kaaba, we have wandered from our road. How cometh that? Asked Musa. And Abd al-Samad replied, The stars were overclouded, and I could not guide myself by them. Where on God's earth are we now? Asked the Emir. And the Sheikh answered, I know not, for I never set eyes on this land till this moment. Said Musa, Guide us back to the place where we went astray. But the other, I know it no more. Then Musa, Let us push on. Happily Allah will guide us to it or direct us aright of his power. So they fared on till the hour of noon prayer, when they came to a fair champion, and wide and level and smooth as it were the sea when calm. And presently there appeared to them on the horizon some great thing, high and black, in whose midst was it smoke, rising to the confines of the sky. They made for this, and stayed not in their course till they drew near thereto, when lo, it was a high castle, firm of foundations, and great and gruesome as it were, a towering mountain, built all of black stone, with frowning crenels and a door of gleaming china steel, that dazzled the eyes and dazed the wits. Round about it were 1,000 steps, and that which appeared afar off it was smoke, with a central dome of lead and 100 cubits high. When the Emir saw this, he marveled thereat with exceeding marvel, and how this place was void of inhabitants. And the Sheikh, after he had certified himself thereof, said, There is no God but the God, and Mohammed is the apostle of God. Quoth Musa, I hear thee praise the Lord and hallow him, and meseemeth thou rejoicest. O Emir, answered Abd al-Samad, Rejoice, for Allah, extolled and exalted be he, hath delivered us from the frightful wolds and thirsty wastes. How knowest this? Said Musa. And the other, I know it, for that my father told me of my grandfather, that he said, We were once journeying in this land, and straying from the road we came to this palace, and thence to the city of brass, between which and the place thou seekest is 2 full months' travel. But thou must take the seashore, and leave it not, for there be watering places, and wells, and camping grounds established by King Zu al-Karin Iskandar, who were he to the conquest of Morintia, found by the way thirsty deserts and wastes, and wilds and dugs therein water pits, and built cisterns. Quoth Musa, Allah rejoice thee with good news. And quoth the Sheikh, Come, let us go look upon yonder palace and its marvels, for it is an admonition to whoso will be admonished. So the Emir went up to the palace with the Sheikh and his officers, and coming to the gate, found it open. Now this gate was builded with lofty columns and porticos, whose walls and ceilings were inlaid with gold and silver and precious stones. And there led up to its flights of steps, among which were 2 wide stairs of colored marble, never was seen their like. And over the doorways was a tablet whereon were graven letters of gold in the old ancient Ionian characters. O Emir, asked the Sheikh, Shall I read? And Musa answered, Read, and God bless thee, for all that betideth us in this journey dependeth upon thy blessings. So the Sheikh, who was a very learned man, and versed in all tongues and characters, went up to the tablet, and read whatso was thereon. And it was a verse like this: The signs that here their mighty works portray warn us that we must tread the selfsame way. O thou who standest in the stead to hear tidings of folk whose power hath passed for aye, enter this palace gate and ask the news of greatness fallen into dust and clay. Death hath destroyed them and dispersed their might, and in the dust they lost their rich display, as had they only set their burdens down to rest a while, and then they had rode away. When the Emir Musa heard these couplets, he wept till he lost his senses, and said, There is no God but the God, the living, the eternal, who ceaseth not. Then he entered the palace, and was confounded at its beauty, and the goodliness of its construction. He diverted himself a while by viewing the pictures and images therein, till he came to another door, over which were written verses and said to the sheikh, "Come, read me these." So he advanced and read as follows. Under these domes, how many a company halted of old and fared without stay. See thou what might displays on other wights, time with his shifts which could make lords waylay. They shared together what they gathered, and left their joys and fared to death decay. What joys they joyed, what food they ate, and now in dust they're eaten for the worm a prey. At this the Emir Musa wept bitter tears, and the world waxed yellow before his eyes, and he said, "Verily, we were created for a mighty matter." Then they proceeded to explore the palace, and found it desert and void of living things, its courts desolate, and dwelling places waste laid. In the midst stood a lofty pavilion, with the dome rising high in the air, and about it were 400 tombs, built of yellow marble. The Emir drew near unto these, and behold, amongst them was a great tomb, wide and long, and at its head stood a tablet of white marble, wherein were graven these couplets. How oft have I fought, and how many have slain, how many have I witnessed of blessings and bane, how much I have eaten, how much I have drunk, how oft have I hearkened to singing girls' strain, how much have I bidden, how oft have forbid, how many a castle and Castilian I've sieged and have searched, and the cloistered maids in the depths of its walls for my captives were ta'en. But of ignorance sinned I to win me meeds, which one proved not and brought nothing of gain. Then reckoning thy reckoning, O man, and be wise, ere the goblet of death and of doom thou shalt drain. For yet but a little the dust on thy head they shall strew, and thy life shall go down to the dead. The Emir and his companions wept. Then drawing near unto the pavilion, they saw that it had 8 doors of sandalwood, studded with nails of gold and stars of silver, and inlaid with all manner of precious stones. On the first door were written these verses. What I left it not for nobility of soul, but through sentence and decree that to every man are dight. What while I lived happily with a temper hot and high, my hoarding place defending like a lion in the fight. I took no rest, and greed of gain forbade me give a grain of mustard seed to save from the fires of hell my sprite, until stricken on a day, as with arrow by decree of the Maker, the Fashioner, the Lord of might and right. When my death was appointed, my life I could not keep. By the many of my stratagems, my cunning and my sleight, my troops I had collected availed me naught, and none of my friends and of my neighbors had power to mend my plight. Through my life I was wearied in journeying to death, in stress or in solace, in joyance or despite. So when money bags are bloated and dinar upon dinar thou addest, all may leave thee with fleeing at night. And the driver of a camel and the digger of a grave are what thine heirs shall bring ere the morning dawneth bright. And on judgment day alone shalt thou stand before thy Lord, overladen with thy sins and thy crimes and thine affright. Let the world not seduce thee with lurings, but behold, what measure to thy family and friends it hath doled. When Musa heard these verses, he wept with such weeping that he swooned away. Then coming to himself, he entered the pavilion and saw therein a long tomb, awesome to look upon, whereupon was a tablet of china steel. And Sheikh Abd al-Samad drew near it and read this inscription. In the name of the everlasting Allah, the never beginning, the never ending, in the name of Allah who begetteth nor is he begot, and unto whom the like is not, in the name of Allah, the Lord of majesty and might, is the name of the living one who to death is never dight. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, when it was the 569th night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that Sheikh Abd al-Samad, having read the aforesaid, also found the following. O thou who comest to this place, take warning by that which thou seest of the accidents of time and the vicissitudes of fortune, and be not deluded by the world and its pomps and vanities and fallacies and falsehoods and vain allurements, for that it is flattering, deceitful, and treacherous, and the things there are but a loan to us, which it will borrow back from all borrowers. It is like unto the dreams of the dreamer, and the sleep visions of the sleeper, or as the mirage of the desert which the thirsty take for water. And Satan maketh it fair for men, even unto death. These are the ways of the world. Wherefore, put not thy trust therein, neither incline thereto, for it bewrayeth him who leaneth upon it, and who committeth himself thereunto in his affairs. Fall not thou into its snares, neither take hold upon its skirts, but be warned by my example. I possessed 4,000 bay horses and a haughty palace, and I had to wife 1,000 daughters of kings, high-bosomed maids as they were moons. I was blessed with 1,000 sons as they were fierce lions, and I abode 1,000 years, glad of heart and mind, and I amassed treasures beyond the competence of all the kings of the regions of the earth, deeming that delight would still endure me. But there fell on me unawares the destroyer of delights, and the sunderer of society, the desolator of domiciles, and the spoiler of inhabited spots, the murderer of great and small, babes and children, and mothers. He who hath no rule on the poor for his poverty, or feareth the king for all his bidding or forbidding. Verily, we abode safe and secure in this palace, till there descended upon us the judgment of the Lord of the 3 worlds, Lord of the heavens, and the Lord of the earth. The vengeance of the manifest truth overtook us, when there died of us every 2 days, till a great company of us had perished. When I saw that destruction had entered our dwellings, and had homed with us, and in the sea of death had drowned us, I summoned a writer, and bade him indite these verses in instances and admonitions, the which I left grave, with rule and compass on these doors and tablets and tombs. Now I had an army of 1,000 bridles, men of warrior mien, with forearms strong and keen, armed with spears and mailcoats, sheen, and swords that gleam. So I bade them don their long hanging hauberks, and gird on their biting blades, and mount their high mettled steeds, and levelled their dreadful lances. And when as there fell on us the doom of the Lord of heaven and earth, I said to them, Ho, all ye soldiers and troopers, can ye avail to ward off that which is fallen on me from the omnipotent king? But troopers and soldiers availed not unto this, and said, How shall we battle with him to whom no chamberlain beareth access, the Lord of the door, which hath no keeper? Then quoth I to them, Bring me my treasures. Now I had in my treasury 1,000 cisterns, in each of which were 1,000 quintals of red gold, and the like of white silver, besides pearls and jewels of all kinds, and other things of price, beyond the attainment of the kings of the earth. So they did that. And when they had laid all the treasures in my presence, I said to them, Can you ransom me with all this treasure, or buy me 1 day of life therewith? But they could not. So they resigned themselves to foreordained fate and fortune, and I submitted to the judgment of Allah, enduring patiently that which he decreed upon me of affliction, till he took my soul, and made me dwell in my grave. And if thou ask of my name, I am Cush, the son of Sadad, son of the Ad the Greater. And upon the tablets were engraved these lines. And thou wouldst know my name, whose day is done with shifts of time and changes neath the sun. No, I am Shaddad's son, who ruled mankind, and o'er all earth upheld dominion. All stubborn peoples abject were to me, and Sham to Cairo, and to Adnamwan. I reigned in glory, conquering many kings, and peoples feared my mischief, every one. Yea, tribes and armies in my hand I saw. The world all dreaded me, both friends and foe. When I took horse, I viewed my numbered troops, bridles on neighing steeds 1,000,000, and I had wealth that none could tell or count. against misfortune, treasuring all I won. Fate hath brought my life with all my wealth, and for a moment's space my death to shun. But God would not save what his purpose willed, so from my brethren cut I bode alone. And death, the sunderous man, exchanged my lot to pauper hut from grandur's mansion. When I find all mine actions gone and past, wherefore I'm pledged and by my sin undone. Then fear, O man, who by a brink dost range the turns of fortune and the chance of change. The Emir Musa was hurt to his heart, and loathed his life for what he saw of the slaughtering places of the folk, and as they went about the highways and byways of the palace, viewing its sitting chambers and pleasurances, behold, there came upon a table of yellow onyx, unborne on 4 feet of juniper wood, and thereon these words graven: At this table have eaten 1,000 kings blind of the right eye, and 1,000 blind of the left, and yet of 1,000 sound of both eyes, all of whom have departed the world, and have taken up their sojourn in the tombs and catacombs. All this the Emir wrote down, and left the palace, carrying off with him naught save the table aforesaid. Then he fared on with his host 3 days' space under the guidance of the Sheikh Abd al-Samad, till they came to a high hill whereon there stood a horseman of brass. In his hand he held a lance, with a broad head in brightness like blinding levin, whereon was graven, O thou that comest unto me, if thou know not the way to the city of brass, rub the hand of this rider, and he will turn round the presently stop. Then take the direction whereto he faceth, and fare fearless, for it will bring thee without hardship to the city aforesaid. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased saying her permitted say. Now, when it was the 570th night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that when the Emir Musa rubbed the horseman's hand, he revolved like a dazzling lightning, and stopped facing in a direction other than that wherein they were journeying. So they took the road to which he pointed, which was the right way, and finding it a beaten track, fared on through their days and nights till they had covered a wide tract of country. Then they came upon a pillar of black stone like a furnace chimney, wherein was one sunken up to his armpits. He had 2 great wings and 4 arms, 2 of them like the arms of the sons of Adam, and the other 2 as they were lions' paws, with claws of iron. And he was black and tall and frightful of aspect, with hair like horses' tails, and eyes like blazing coals slit upright in his face. Moreover, he had in the middle of his forehead a 3rd eye, as if that of a lynx, from which flew sparks of fire. And he cried out, saying, Glory to my Lord, who hath adjudged unto me this grievous torment and sore punishment until the day of doom. When the folk saw him, they lost their reason for affright, and turned to flee. So the Emir Musa asked the Sheikh Abd al-Samad, What is this? And he answered, I know not. Whereupon quoth Musa, Draw near, and question him of his condition. Haply he will discover to thee his case. Allah assain the Emir. Indeed, I am afraid of him, replied the Sheikh. But the Emir rejoined, saying, Fear not. He is hindered from thee and from all others by that wherein he is. So Abd al-Samad drew near to the pillar, and said to him which was therein, O creature, what is thy name, and what art thou, and how camest thou here in this fashion? I am an Ifrit of the Jinn, replied he, by name Dahish, son of Al-A'amash, and am confined here by the All-Might, prisoned here by the providence, and punished by the judgment of Allah, till it pleaseth him to whom belong might and majesty to release me. Then said Musa, Ask him why he is in durance of this column. So the Sheikh asked him of this, and the Ifrit replied, saying, Verily, my tale is wondrous, and my case marvellous, and it is this. One of the sons of Iblis had an idol of red carnelian, where I was guardian, and there served it a king of the kings of the sea, a prince of puissant power and prow of prowess, overruling 1,000 warriors of the Jan, who smote with swords before him, and answered his summons in time of need. All these were under my commandment, and obeyed my behest, being each and every rebels against Solomon, son of David, on whom be peace. And I used to enter the belly of the idol, and thence bid and forbid them. Now this king's daughter loved the idol, and was frequent in prostration to it, and assiduous in its service. And she was the fairest woman of her day, accomplished in beauty and loveliness, elegance and grace. She was described unto Solomon, and he sent to her father, saying, Give me thy daughter to wife, and break thine idol of carnelian, and testify, saying, There is no God but the God, and Solomon is the prophet of Allah. And thou do this, our due shall be thy due, and thy debt shall be our debt. But if thou refuse, make ready to answer the summons of the Lord, and don thy grave gear, for I will come upon thee, and an irresistible host, which shall fill the waste places of earth, and make thee as yesterday, that has passed away, and hath no return for aye. When this message reached the king, he waxed insolent and rebellious, prideful and contemptuous, and he cried to his wazirs, What say ye of this? Know ye that Solomon, son of David, hath sent requiring me to give him my daughter to wife, and break my idol of carnelian, and enter his faith? And they replied, O mighty king, how shall Solomon do thus with thee? Even could he come at thee in the midst of this vast ocean, he could not prevail against thee, for the Marids of the Jan will fight on thy side, and thou wilt ask succor of thine idol, whom thou servest, and he will help thee, and give thee viceroy over him. So thou wouldest do well to consult on this matter thy lord, meaning the idol aforesaid, and hear what he saith. If he say, fight him, and if not, not. So the king went in without stay or delay to his idols, and offered up sacrifices and slaughtered victims, after which he fell down before him, prostrate and weeping, and repeated these verses. O my lord, well I wee thy puissant hand. Suleiman would break thee and see thee banned. O my lord, to crave succor here I stand. Command, and I bow to thy high command. Then I, continued the Ifrit, addressing the sheikh and those about him, of my ignorance and want of wit and recklessness of the commandment of Solomon, and lack of knowledge and net of his powers, entered the belly of the idol, and made answer as follows. As for me, of him I feel not affright, for my lore and my wisdom are infinite. If he wish for war, for I'll show him fight, and out of his body I'll tear his sprite. When the king heard my boastful reply, he hardened his heart, and resolved to wage war upon the prophet, and to offer him battle. Wherefore he beat the messenger with a grievous beating, and returned a foul answer to Solomon, threatening him, and saying, Of a truth, thy soul hath suggested to thee a vain thing. Dost thou menace me with mendacious words? But gird thyself for battle. For an thou come not to me, I will assuredly come to thee. So the messenger returned to Solomon, and told him all that had passed, and whatso had befallen him, which when the prophet heard, he raged like doomsday, and addressed himself to the fray, and levied armies of men and Jan, and birds and reptiles. He commanded his wazir, Al-Dimrat, king of the Jan, to gather together the Marids of the Jinn from all parts, and he collected for him 600,000 of devils. Moreover, by his order, his wazir, Asaph bin Barkaya, levied him on an army of men, to the number of 1,000 or more. Then all he furnished with arms and armor, and mounting with his host upon his carpet, took flight through air, while the beast fared under him, and the birds flew overhead, till he lighted down on the island of the refractory king, and encompassed it all about, filling earth with his host. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased saying her permitted say. And so do I cease the telling of these tales till it be morrow.